That way I don't blow anybody's eardrums out.
But in typical old school Milktown fashion, now recording.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Oh no.
You were getting very sleepy.
Can I stop you for a minute?
Thank you. Yeah, so first of all, welcome back. It's been a little bit since we last posted. My computer died, which I was about to tell our guest about. So I'm on my laptop as like a last resort in order to be here on time today. But yeah, so we're actually joined today by a very cool guest. Someone who's graciously offered his time after sliding in some Facebook DMs. But yeah, today we're joined by Scott Stokely, who is one of the OG disc golfers. He's been in the game for a while, got a lot of wins, and we're excited to have him. So yeah, welcome, Scott.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that's we're kind of battling a little bit of a time difference right now. And I don't think this is news to anybody because I'm pretty sure you posted about this on your YouTube, but you're in Australia. I did my math wrong here because I was like, "Oh yeah, GMT plus 10. We have friends in that time zone. Like I've got it nailed." And we were here an hour early.
Dude, I used that hour to do homework. Like, it was easy. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it's awkward. And then Sydney and Melbourne have different time zones. So even though we're just going down the East Coast, we're actually going to be changing time zones without really heading that far west. So it's the nature of things. Can you imagine doing this before the internet, trying to figure out time zones?
Yeah, have to consult like an encyclopedia.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's probably why I was wrong because I actually did my stuff based on Sydney. If it's in a different time zone,
No. Time zone right now. We're in Gold Coast, just south of Brisbane.
Huh.
Okay, gotcha. But that's very cool. I'm jealous of you're probably in some like decent weather right now. It is freezing cold.
It's like 20 degrees. I'm like in a basement pretending it's an office.
Actually it's awful. It's probably like 79 degrees and blue skies and sunny.
And that's awful.
Oh, so bad.
Well, I prefer 79.5.
Oh, I see.
Oh, gotta be specific with it.
Yeah, wow.
No, I'm a professional. I'll deal with
it.
We have three professionals in this call right now. That's not bad. It's 34% of the time.
That's awesome. I'm super jealous that you're in like pretty decent weather though, for real. It's one of the things that I started thinking about today is because so we had the time change here. So days are getting a lot shorter and I'm sitting here like, oh man, I leave work at 5 p.m. and it's been dark for an hour. And I started thinking about like, man, I really hope that, SADS doesn't start to set in for me this year. Because I don't know if you guys have had this issue, but I'm very seasonally affected by like the lack of sunlight.
Yeah.
So I'm like I said, I don't know if you have this issue as well, but that's an issue that I have here.
It's a real thing. It's there's really good data that suggests that it's not psychosomatic. It's a real thing that happens. The further north or south you get, too, when they have the longer winters, people have a hard time with that. No, I'm going to feel like a princess here because I never spend winter north of the equator again. Like I'm just going to be south of the equator every winter from here on out. Cool. I'm over cold winter days. I paid my dues. I'm old.
So Alaska, maybe not the place for us. Yeah.
No, I heard Alaska's great. Like July 27th through August 4th. Apparently,
but another thing I wanted to ask you too. So I was trying to look up how this tournament went for you. That way I would be prepared just to kind of have a little bit of conversation going. I was on Disc Golf Scene, and it said that you're like registered for some tournaments in like Thailand and Cambodia. Is that right?
Yeah, my girlfriend and I left the U.S. like 2 or 3 weeks ago. We're going to be gone for at a minimum the next 2.5 years.
Oh wow!
Just
Wow, yeah.
role playing disc golf. So it's 6 weeks in Australia, 4 weeks in New Zealand. We're going to go spend 4 months in Southeast Asia, playing disc golf at tournaments in Malaysia, Thailand, and Cambodia. And then we're going to do like Laos, Vietnam, and Japan just for fun. But then we're going to do the full Euro tour next year. And then the winter after, my plan is there's 4 tournaments in Africa over the winter, which I'm going to try to go to. So I want to go spend the winter in Africa and then do the Euro tour again the following year. So
yeah, that sounds really cool. I didn't realize that. I knew Europe had a tour and stuff like that, but I didn't realize that like Southeast Asia had courses like that.
No. They have one tournament that's actually an A tier, and it's the only one in Southeast Asia that's of note. The one in Cambodia, like last year, they said they had their biggest turnout ever, like 30 players across all divisions.
Oh wow!
I'm not going to these places to compete. I'm going there to promote disc golf, do clinics. Like when I go to Cambodia, Malaysia, places like that, all the clinics, everything I'm doing is going to be free. I'm not charging for anything. I'm just trying to promote.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I was like,
this is not a business decision to go to these places. I want to be places that are unique.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, when you were deciding on that stuff too, was there any like draw because of like a specific type of culture? Like, did the food culture of a certain place really draw you to another place in particular?
Well, yes and no. We're full-time nomads. I'm not exaggerating. I don't own a single thing that is not in my hotel room right now. I got no home base. There's no storage unit. I don't have a box of memorabilia back home. I don't own anything, and I never will. I've had the 4-bedroom house that I filled every room with furniture for no reason whatsoever, and the cars, and done all that, and it's none of it made me happy. I'm happy traveling as light as possible. So we just have our clothing, our laptops, our phones, our medicine.
Neat.
Deodorant and toothbrushes, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's it, and all. Sure. Like we're not going to own anything other than that. And golf discs, right? Of course, to compete. So the reason we do this is because we are happiest when we go someplace new, and we're not happy when we're in the same place. Like we would, honest to God, and I say we because we're very similar, would rather go someplace horrible than someplace amazing that we've already been to.
Oh,
okay.
I'd rather have a bad experience that's a new experience. So as far as places I want to go to, anywhere new is fun. But I'm also, even more than that, I'm interested in, like, Australia is amazing, but it's still the West. People still speak English, right? It's still, I'm excited about going. The more exotic, the better. It's why I want to go spend next winter in Africa. Well, India and Africa. Like, I want to get as far removed from my normal life as possible.
Okay. Yeah, no, I completely understand. I just wanted to see what sort of the thought process there was too. I have inclinations to go to some of those places as well, but unfortunately I've got 3 dogs that I can't just take with me too, so that's another thing. But yeah, no, that seems very interesting that you're gonna be out of the States for that long, and the fact that you're putting on those clinics for free is really cool. That seems kind of well, I mean, it is generous, but it's also it reminds me of kind of like what not specifically, but what the NBA was doing in Africa. They set up like a league there with clinics trying to promote more people to enjoy a sport too. So it's very cool.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I just want to promote. I make really good money with my teaching. I'm comfortable, so I can afford to do it. The thing about a lot of these countries, like I'll be doing clinics in Cambodia and in Malaysia and Thailand, and if I was to charge money, it would be like $1 a person, just because the dollar to to their money, the the economies are just so different. Like, there's no point.
Right.
Like there's no money to be made, even if I wanted to. So then why not just take it just that one little step further and make it free, and then maybe get far more people. What's interesting, though, some of the what I found out is every country's different, right? But some of the countries in Southeast Asia have a system in place where people don't necessarily want to be given something for free, so they pay what they can, but it might not be money. So people will come to the clinics and they will offer a place to stay. They will offer to cook you dinner. They'll offer you something that they made. That's cool. Like, so I won't not allow people to reciprocate if that's what you feel like you need to do, so you don't feel like you're being handed something. Like, I totally get that, but it's like such a beautiful idea. You show up and it's basically pay what you can.
Nice.
Like, how cool is that, right? I mean, like, I would much rather have somebody give me a home cooked meal in Cambodia than.
It's gotta be cool to like try the
Wait,
food and
like $30. You know what I mean? Like, that's like, I can't. That's way better.
Oh yeah, I'd be pretty stoked if someone would introduce.
I'm just excited.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's super cool. That was that's kind of all I had for the you traveling abroad stuff. I just wanted to see if that was the case.
Yeah,
I have some questions.
And then, what's up, Nate?
I have some questions. I've been doing my research. I'm not a disc golfer like Sonny. I have less knowledge about disc golf, but you have your own Wikipedia page. First of all, have you ever visited your own Wikipedia page?
I have. I built it.
Oh, okay. I've always asked people. I'm like, some people have built their own, but then some people get theirs.
No, I did. So technically, I didn't build it. You're not allowed to build your own, but I was consulted on it because when the people building it, they needed to confirm if this was right. They wanted to make sure everything was accurate.
Mm-hmm. So it says you won your first like championship at like 17 years old. Was that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, back 1987.
Okay. So when you were 17, were you working any types of jobs before that, or has life always been like disc golf, oriented?
No. So the I mean, aside from like high school type, work at the gas station type jobs.
Yeah.
No. What happened was I made the mistake so many people make of when I was like 20 years old of thinking, okay, now I got to go to college. This is the way to make it in the world. You got to go to college, got to get a career, got to go to 401k. You got to work 51 weeks to get 1 week off.
Oh, yeah.
Marriage, kids, like whatever, like the stuff we're programmed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did 3 semesters of college, and I took off to go tour. And I'll tell you, it's just a funny story about that. And this is one of the many epiphanies in life that I figured out, was that I was in my 3rd semester of college. And actually, this is before I decided to go on tour. And there was a tournament coming up. I was working at Kinko's on the graveyard shift.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a tournament coming up in a couple months. And so I asked for the Friday before the tournament off because I needed to get there a day early to play the course and everything. And my boss gave me this guilt trip. And I just remember him just like, oh, I can't believe what you're doing. You know how hard it is to replace graveyard shift, like this position you're put. And he's totally making me feel terrible about it. And I'd earned the day off. You're required to take your days off.
Right.
And it's like, and I'm battling with this guy to get this day off. And the whole time I'm thinking, I don't care about Kinko's. I care about my tournament. Like what? Like this is insane. And so finally, after like I don't know how long, he finally went, fine, I guess I'll find somebody to work it. You can have the day off. And I walked out and I just had this moment and it hit me. I said, if I stay in college, I'm going to be having this exact same conversation in 20 years.
Right.
Like I'll be being paid more money, but it's ultimately the same conversation. Someone else has control over me and they dictate whether or not I do something I want to do. And I was like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
There's no way I can do that. And then that's when I went out to go on tour for the first time. And then actually after 3 months on tour, I still in the back of my mind thought I was coming back because I didn't know the paths outside of college and stuff like that. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, I still gotta do it. I don't want to be poor. Mm-hmm. And after 3 months, I was like, I'm screwed, because after 3 months playing frisbee for a living, I was like, and like between that and like not wanting to have someone run my life, I was like, what am I going to do? I can't plug into the system. I can never be happy plugged in. And that's been that. That's kind of where it started.
We've been kind of in similar boats.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot on the podcast actually, where it's like, you know, we're kind of feeling things out, and you know, I've switched jobs recently because the last one was very much like, oh, you didn't give a year of your life, no time off for you, and now this job I'm working now is similar but different. I can have the time off now, but it's always a little weird, and so I think about that a lot. And Sonny has been at his job for a while now.
Yeah, I actually left. I was a part of like a labor union. I was
Yeah.
making like really good money, but
Mm.
the job itself was like trying to kill me.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like, oh yeah, I'm like I'll just do this for a little bit and then I'll go and chase what I really want. And I kept putting off the chase what I really want part of it a little bit longer. So now we're kind of both in the process of chasing what we actually want to do and
It is.
kind of getting
It's
out of that system.
it's hard, but the thing is that in the modern world, like there's so many opportunities that are available now that weren't before. Like it used to be, if you wanted to be a filmmaker, you needed a Hollywood studio. Not anymore.
Mhm.
You wanted a musician, you needed a major label. Not anymore. You want to be a comedian, you need to a high dollar agent. Not anymore. Like there's so much control people have over their things. If you're a fly fisherman and you like tying flies, like I could give me 5 minutes and I will give you a path to where you're tying flies for a living and making six figures in 5 years.
Yeah.
I like 100% promise you that'll happen if you're willing to like you don't have to like have the job. I mean, I'm not saying it's not, if you're a nurse or whatever, you're like there's jobs. Like if you want to be a high school, but that's not most people. Most people, I think, have more opportunities than they think. I think a lot of younger people realize it more than older people. Older people are more kind of plugged into the system.
Yeah, and that's something that we've kind of talked about as well. Not in like great depth because obviously we only have the experiences that we've had.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like Nate and I, we're both in our mid-20s at this point, so we don't have as much of the system as other people do, like the routine and the falling back into the same routines, even in different places. So, yeah, like I get where you're coming from though, where it is definitely easier these days to find something that's like you can make money out. Like yeah, even fly fishing. Like if you like made lures, you could sell them on Etsy and stuff like that. Like there's a ton of different paths that we can take.
Yeah, and it's not an easy the right word. It's just that there's a path that wasn't there before. It might not be easier, but there was a time when there weren't paths to a lot of things. You kind of had to plug in. If you were a computer programmer, you worked for IBM.
That's right. Yeah.
And that world, it's changed. I spent a lot of my time. I've been an entrepreneur for like probably 20-ish years now. Through the good and the bad. I mean, I've made tons of money. I'm doing great now. I've also had my house foreclosed upon and gone bankrupt. I mean, like I've when it rains, it pours. It's not all. It's there's the whole spectrum of I've seen it all. But I talk to people all the time about this. It's like there are so many barriers that people put in front of themselves. The world's not putting them there.
Right.
Like the people put the barriers on themselves. I think 95% of the time it's self-imposed.
I can completely understand that. So to share a little bit about like myself and the thought process there, like I at one point, this was before I even had like the union job. I was working a job that kept me overnights, kind of like with you at Kinko's, but so I didn't see anyone. I was living in a small town and I had like severe social anxiety at the time. So I would sit there and I would get off work and I would not be interacting with anybody and I'd just be stuck in my like dark house in the night. And it kind of occurred to me then like, hey, maybe this isn't the greatest. Like you should probably see some people. So It took me a while, but I finally convinced myself, like, okay, we're gonna fix the social anxiety part of your life. That way, you can at least go outside and see
Yeah.
people. Um, so it took about a year of solid work in terms of just like sitting down and like trying to figure out like where all this stuff comes from and fixing it actively. But um,
Mm.
that was I'm losing my train of thought here, but that was oh, what's the word I'm looking for? That was like the difficult decision that I had to make in terms of I'm sorry, I'm completely blanking.
Yeah.
Uh, I had a
No, it's okay. So
conclusion there.
I think that here's something that I tell people, that how you feel and how you act, those are independent things.
Mhm.
You know, like anxiety is a bitch. Anxiety is probably the biggest, in my opinion, anxiety is the single biggest killer of relationships. It's a single biggest killer of achieving and changing and improving. Like, there's anxiety sucks,
Mhm.
and you can't turn it off. Like, it's like, you know, it's not something that you can just flip a switch and like whatever. But I don't believe that those emotions control your actions.
Mhm.
Like, you can feel a certain way, but it doesn't change what you do. And so what I always try to do is I self-coach myself.
Mhm.
And I do every single thing I would coach myself to do as an entrepreneur. And whether or not I like it or enjoy it is not relevant.
Mhm.
Like, I'm basically like my own boss.
Right.
So one of the, for example, like, I'm a professional extrovert. Like, if when we, like, if you know, if you win the lottery tomorrow, I'm up in the mountains backpacking, me and my girl, away from everybody. I'm not an extrovert,
Right.
but I'm the most visible person in all of social media and disc golf, probably. But the reason why is because that pays well. That's my
Mhm.
job. So, like, I will never, like, my coach, who happens to be me, has instructed me to never turn down a podcast and seek out every podcast possible, because that's how I grow my company.
Yeah.
That it's not relevant if it's 6 o'clock in the morning or if I don't want people looking at me.
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
those are independent from the anxiety. Now, I feel less anxiety being an extrovert than I did at one point, but there was a time when it was so hard for me, and I'm like, suck it up, dude. Talk to myself. I'm like, suck it up, dude. I don't care if you don't like it.
Yeah.
You know, like, you don't have a choice. And so that's kind of, you know, those are actions and feelings are two different things. They're not related. I mean, they're related. Sorry, there's correlation, but not
Yeah.
always.
Right. I have a lot of that in my personal experience because I have more of a performing background. So I am a singer slash actor, you know, and I have been since I was very young. And when I was younger, I had a lot more anxiety surrounding it. And and like you said, if you don't separate the feeling from the action, you start to merge them together and you start to miss out on opportunities. Well, I'm too anxious to do this. And before you know it, you're like halfway through, you know, a performing arts high school that people wish they could have gone to, having taken advantage of none of the opportunity you were presented. And so I think it's very important to like feel what you have to feel, but also take actions to overcome that. Because if you don't, you're going to feel like you shot yourself in the foot and you've missed several opportunities, you know? And so now
Absolutely.
I'm kind of the same way where it's like, well, I can't pass up an opportunity. Like when we started this podcast, Sonny was like, oh yeah, let's just do this podcast. And I was like, in my brain, I was like, oh, I'm not podcast material. Like I'm really good at, you know, like on the fly stuff. I'm a good streamer. I do all right. You know, I'm good on stage. I know my lines. I know how to sing. But I was like, you know what? Let's just go for it. You know what I mean? And we did. And it's been fun. And it's still fun. So.
Yeah, like, what is it? I was listening to oh god, I'm trying to blank. He's probably the best competitive grappler who ever lived. Gordon Ryan.
Okay.
Gordon Ryan. He basically is considered the greatest of all time now as a grappler, and his work ethic is like world famous.
Mm-hmm.
And he said like he said there, I'm going to get the words wrong, but he said there's a difference between motivation and discipline.
Yeah.
He says, because he's the hardest worker out there. He says, yeah, it's because I'm disciplined. I'm not always motivated. Like, I don't always feel like doing this, but that's not relevant to doing it. Those are two separate. By the way, I'm not dismissing how hard that is. It's freaking hard.
Yeah.
It's freaking hard. Anxiety anxiety will bury you. It's not to suggest that that's easy, because that's what people that don't understand mental health and how shitty our brains can be, like, they think this is easy. Like, oh, it's like depression. You know, it's the blues. It's like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Dude, right. Not the blues. Anxiety is not a case of the nervies. It's like, it's a real thing. Yeah, but I do think it's like, you still got to do the things that are good for you, even if they're harder for you than someone else. So that's just the hand you're dealt.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I've started to try to, like, come out of my shell a little bit more, even if I don't want to do something specifically. Like, this is going to sound terrible before I say what it is that I didn't want to do.
Bring up how you tried to romance Colonel Sanders?
No, I'm not. No.
Oh, darn.
It's a game. It's a video.
It's a game. For reference, it's a video.
But no, my brother's wife, she celebrated her 30th birthday over the weekend, and she wanted to have a roller skating party that was like 70s themed. So she planned it all out. She had it at this like roller rink, and I showed up and the place was packed. And like, I had on the floral print button-up shirt, and like, really, they weren't bell bottoms, but they were ugly pants. And then I had on like an afro wig and some glasses, and I just see like 12-year-olds walking into this place. I'm like, oh great, I'm about to be surrounded by the meanest people on the planet, 12-year-olds dressed like this. So yeah, I wasn't excited to be there until everyone else showed up, and I was like, okay, at least I'm not the only one that dressed up.
You looked phenomenal in that wig, by the way.
Thank you.
It was fantastic.
But yeah, that's I totally get where you're going.
Yeah, so with all this knowledge, you know, that you've gained, things were a lot different, you know, back in the 80s and whatnot. Why is mental health kind of one of your, kind of at the forefront of, you know, what you do, as far as both in sports, but you also, you know, show up to every podcast? Like, why is mental health so important? Has it always been important, and now it's just coming more to light in the public media, or are you thinking more?
It's a few things. One is I'm not just happier than I've ever been. I think I'm happier than any person I've ever known. Like, I'm so happy, but it's like, it's been a path. It's been some really bad times along the way. I almost think that's required to be happy. You know, I mean, trust fund kids aren't happy when you have everything handed to you.
Yeah.
So, you know, struggle is real, and struggle, you know, builds you. But I'm 100% open with myself. I share with everybody. I feel like almost responsible for doing it, because so many people follow me, and I mean, they look up to me, and it's like, if you just see this facade that I put on, I'm doing a disservice to everybody.
Right.
Because then it's like, my happiness is unobtainable. My level of disc golf skill is unobtainable. My level of financial success is unobtainable, because it looks like I'm bulletproof and I'm perfect. And that's bullshit. That's like the modern social media world, where it's not just modern. I mean, in the old days, it was movie stars, all that glamorous lives. None of them were junkies. Like, none of them were, you know, like, you know, according to like the media, it looks like it's all glamorous. But it's not just a modern thing. I think it's more now. And it's like, that's not fair to people. So what I find it very important to be vulnerable and transparent with everybody about my failings, because people can connect to those, you know. But at the same time, it's like, I also am not soft on everybody.
Right.
I mean, translation to what I said a minute ago was, get off your ass and do something. Shut up. You know, I think the pendulum has also shifted really far the other direction.
Yeah.
You know, Like, look, I'm sorry. I know mental health is a real challenge, but if you're at the Olympics and you don't play your event because of a mental health day, you are wrong. That's not brave. That's like you're at the Olympics. I mean, at some point you got to go. You got to step back and say this is not okay. There has to be a happy balance between some old school '70s, like coaching, which was absolutely horrible.
Right.
Like where they do 3 days without water, and like if you weren't puking at the end of practice, you weren't a man. Like, okay, that's really bad. But you can't go this full circle and say, oh, every time you have a problem, that gives you an excuse to fail.
Right. Exactly.
Like there's middle ground, and so I think that I'm the middle ground.
Yeah.
Like I fail, and things are hard for me, and I've failed so many times in life, but I can also tell you what things I've done that have made me succeed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my thing. I think there's a secondary thing too, is that there's no doubt that mental health and men don't go together. They still don't. As much as they say it's better, it's like maybe it has gotten better, mental health issues in men, but gotten better doesn't mean it's good.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Like there are so many men that struggle with not being able to, like, I mean, men kill themselves a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's like men are in abusive relationships a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're laughed at. It's funny.
Yeah,
it's
and
like
people think it's hilarious.
We know we're the man of that family. Ha ha ha. And it's like, no, this guy's being abused.
Right. Like,
And I'm not saying it go the other way, but the other side's addressed and talked about. And it's like, I think it's important for men to speak up also. That's not dismissing women.
Right. Exactly.
But we also struggle with things. And, if I can be a small voice in that,
mm-hmm.
like then if I can help, that's great. And I don't just want to help guys. Please don't.
No, I get you. No.
But it's like, it's true though. Like men's mental health issues still aren't honestly taken seriously.
Yeah.
Or barely.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of motives. I think that I have a role to play in this weird world of ours.
Right. Yeah, it is. It's crazy out there. I was speaking to my therapist, speaking on how you're like a good middle ground between acknowledging that mental health needs to be worked on, but also not wallowing in it and sitting there. One of the best things my therapist ever told me, because I struggle with depression, a little bit of anxiety, definitely not as much as it used to be. He would always tell me that depression is anger turned inward, and maybe that's not for everybody, but the way he described it was that the actions you take to overcome that inward turn anger are going to help you progress. And I've made a lot of progress. I started therapy in May. I had to stop recently because finances and working on other projects and kind of moving jobs and stuff.
How's that not bullshit? That's financial issues with mental health.
Oh,
That's so ridiculous.
Right. And so with that, it's very cool to hear that somebody who has seen, success is also willing to acknowledge that they're an actual person, and it's not just, sunshine and rainbows. It's, there's shit that comes with that, and I really appreciate that you're able to share that part, too. Like, that's really cool to me.
Well, the thing is, it's not embarrassing.
Right.
It's like, the thing guys need to realize is that when you share this, I mean, like, yeah, you might have one 80s movie character make fun of you, but like most of the other guys will like, they'll have your back.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like, I don't. No one makes fun of me for like admitting what I suck at. Like, I mean, I don't get any of that.
That's facts.
And I'm not saying never, but I mean, it's like I think the fear of like being vulnerable as a guy is unfounded.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're just programmed to think we should be afraid of being human, but it's like, look, I mean, like think about like all your friends. Like think about all your guy friends that you have. Mm-hmm. If you went to them right now and were struggling with something and started crying, how many of them would actually make fun? Maybe none.
Yeah.
No, it's so, but yet we still hesitate.
Mm-hmm.
We still hesitate to open ourselves up that way because there's still this thing. I don't know what that thing is, but it's a thing.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's I think that's a big thing. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember I became the hugest fan. You know, Patty the Batty
Yeah,
and
the
MMA
fighter.
fighter. Yeah, yeah. He came out and started talking about mental health and his friend killed himself and he started talking about it and it was like the response was universally positive. Nobody was like,
No, yeah,
oh, this guy will kick your ass.
like there's that.
Yeah,
What
So
were
'cause-
we-
those types of guys need to step up almost more than anybody. Stereotypical masculine guys.
right. Well,
Yeah,
what
I
we
think
always
it's-
say in Milktown is we drink respect people juice here, as Sonny
Yeah,
likes to
wait,
say, and so
that's true.
Right.
we don't really cultivate a culture where you could ever put somebody down for not knowing, for not being able to do something, for being vulnerable. There's nothing wrong with that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Agree.
going back to the Patty the Batty thing, I genuinely loved his response too because I think his response was like, I'd rather have a call at 3 a.m. asking for my help than a call the next morning telling me what I heard that
Yeah.
day.
Right.
And it's
Okay, yeah.
absolutely true.
Yeah. He got 5 stars in my book for that one. You know, he did the in-ring interview, but he did an interview backstage afterwards that was even better. Yeah, he's a really smart guy. He's very, very articulate, and I was like, I hope he sticks with it. I hope this becomes something he's continues to be like doing. I think it's good for the world.
And then speaking of just doing good stuff in general, I wanted to talk a little bit. You've got some ventures that I think are really cool and positive. Like you work a lot with adaptive sports technology. Specifically, is it with disc golf specifically?
Yeah, I do. I have run 285 events in 285 cities for kids and adults with special needs. All of them free. Like I don't charge for these. I actually I'm not a charity either. I don't take donate. Like I actually refuse all donations. I won't take donations. I just pay to go and just do these things, which I can get to in a minute. Why? I have very mental health reasons for doing that. But I do that, and all of my prize money for the past 2 years has been is donated to special needs organizations.
Mm-hmm.
So, like at the Australian Championships, I just won $530, and that went to the Down Syndrome of Western Australia organization.
Okay, very cool.
So yeah, I love doing all that. I say most of it because there's one bonus money that the TD made me promise I would keep if I wanted that I kept. So once in the last 2 years I kept it, but he made me promise before, so I had to do it. But as far as the mental health thing, the reason why I do this is completely for selfish mental health reasons. Is that I like feeling good about myself, and I like praise from people.
Okay.
You know, one of my biggest pet peeves, like it just absolutely drives me bonkers, is when people do good things, and then other people question the motives behind the good things. Can I swear on this podcast?
Oh, hell
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Okay, I was avoiding it, but I didn't know. If
Fuck
were
yes,
cool.
you can.
Yeah, fuck yes. So, there, it's broken.
So like someone donates money to a charity, and then you have people that say, oh, it's just a tax write-off, or oh, they're just doing it to market their company, or oh, they're just trying to show off to the people in church how much money they can donate, or oh, they're just talking about it to get Facebook likes. And anybody that says any of those things needs to go fuck themselves, because
That's what's up.
it does not matter what motivation you have for doing good things in the world. If you're doing good things, don't do anything that will stop someone from doing good things or make them not want to do good things. It's stupid.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I do all the special needs work is I really enjoy the praise I get.
There you go.
I don't think I'm a bad guy for that.
No.
I like feeling good about myself. I like recognition. It makes me feel good when people say they look up to me or they admire what I do. That makes me want to do more. And it's really important to me that that I do that. My reasons aren't purely altruistic, but they don't have to be. You
Right.
can do good things. Like, it doesn't have to be altruistic. If you're doing good things, you're doing good things. And I hate when people dismiss that, not because of me, but just in general. It's like, who cares if the person's showing off to people in church by putting $100 bill in the basket for the family that just lost their house in a fire? I mean, fuck them. He put 100.
Yeah, it's,
You know,
I mean, it's still
I just
helping.
wanted to level up my Jesus Christ points today, so like.
Yeah, even I believe me, I think some of these motives are insane. But I don't care if they're insane. To me, they're like you're giving money, whatever. If you're giving money or you're volunteering, I tell people this all the time. I'm like, go work in a soup kitchen, take pictures, and post about it on Facebook, and look at the response you're going to get. It's going to feel really good.
Yeah.
And then maybe you'll go do it more than once because you're like, hey, I kind of like that.
Right.
Mhm.
And then the end result is some place that needs volunteers got another volunteer. So, but I do this all because I want to feel good about myself. I want to feel like I'm giving back. I want to feel like I'm a good person. These are important motives for me. They make me very, very happy. I'll never stop doing it.
I appreciate that you were like willing to be open about the fact that it's like, yeah, it feels good for me. That's why I
There
do
you
it.
go. Hey, yeah.
Because you don't hear a lot of people talking about that. They
No.
try to play the fake altruism card, like, oh, I do it because it's the right thing to do. Like,
Right.
no, fuck that. I feel good when I do
Right,
it.
yeah.
because I'm helping people.
Well, even if they're faking altruism, I don't care if that's their motive. If their motive is they want it to be altruistic, I'm cool with that too.
Because at
Yeah.
least good shit's happening. Right. Yeah. That's,
There's still good things. Yeah, it's I just there's so many people that do good things, and there are people that do them completely silently, and hats off to them, but they're not the only ones.
Mhm.
That's what's up. Yeah.
You know.
So I have a different line of questioning. We've talked about mental health. We've talked about altruism and our Lord and Savior. So, that's cool and great. I also know from stalking you on Wikipedia only today because I'm a half-ass, last minute kind of guy. Okay, not half-ass. I put my full effort, but I am a last minute kind of guy. You happen to have grown up in the 80s. And so I always ask people who grew up in the 80s the same shit because I'm a gamer. Do you have any games? Were you into gaming? Because that's when the big boom was happening, like the 80s and the 90s.
Oh my God, y'all don't even understand. Let me go. Okay, so let's go back. Let's forget the 80s. Let's go back to the 70s. Okay, so in the 70s, when you had to go to arcades, this is what I want you to imagine. Okay, just picture this.
Okay.
And if you think I'm exaggerating, go ask any person in their mid to late 50s, and they will tell you this is not made up. If you were the best 15-year-old kid at Donkey Kong, Space Invaders, Pac-Man, at the arcade, all right, and the way the games worked back then is it cost $0.25 to play. 2 people could play at a time, typically, and you and another player would play. Whoever won the game stayed on, and there was a line of people that wanted to get on that would play. You had to pay your quarter each time, but basically the games were so filled with people that was how you were able to stay on the game. Well, a player that was good at the game would stay on the game sometimes for hours because they were the best in the arcade at that game, right? They knew the patterns. It was all pattern-based. That player left with 2 girls.
I was okay, man.
No. If you were good at Pac-Man, you had a lot of sex because you were good at Pac-Man. Like, because you were the alpha male. It doesn't matter what you are. You were the alpha in the establishment.
Right.
Everybody wanted to beat you. They couldn't beat you. You were better than them. You had long hair. You were smoking cigarettes while you were playing. And you had sex. I don't care how, even if you were awkward, you had sex because you were good at Missile Command.
Dude.
That was the 70s. That's God's honest truth. It was like, guys would walk in with their girlfriends, and their girlfriends would leave with the guy that beat them at Donkey Kong.
So it's funny because on my list of questions, I had one crossed out, And it was, if you did have an answer, I was going to ask if you were just laying the smackdown on that ass if you were a champion, you know. And so that's really funny that you said that. So it was true. That was a way to.
Yeah.
Wow.
So shortly after, like by the time the '80s came around in the home systems, by the way, I had Pong.
Okay.
Okay, let's go back even a little further. The thing about Pong, you remember Pong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. So the thing about Pong, without having been there, you cannot understand how, like, what was so special about this game without this context, okay? Before Pong, everything was directional. Your TV sent information to you. Your record player sent information to you. Your radio sent information to you. Your newspaper sent information to you. Magazines, books, everything came to you.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't do anything the opposite direction. You had no control over any media, anything. Pong was a couple controllers, and you could make things happen on a television set.
Never thought about
and
it.
Literally the entire world got turned upside down. You could now interact with. You could make the TV do something.
Very cool. Yeah, I never thought.
Insane, because there was nothing like that. So yeah, the consoles came out. The Atari 2600 was after Pong was the first one, because Pong was one game. The 2600, the 5600, ColecoVision, all those games came out. But very soon after that, that became nerd culture. And nerds in the 80s were not. They didn't get sex. They were the nerds. So that 70s culture of like alpha male died down, and it's obviously, it's come back right now. Being good at video games and good at computers and being smart is now, being into superheroes and like that. Like obviously that culture shifted, but it was short lived. But yeah, there was a time when nerds, they were the kings. They might as well have been baseball.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a true story. I was there for that. I watched it happen. Like, oh my god, I got to practice this game so I can get the girl.
Yo, I can imagine just like trading music in the background. It's like a damn Rocky movie, just hours and hours at the arcade cabinet. Just
the thing about these old games is that it was all about patterns and memorizing patterns. Mm-hmm. There was a randomness to it that you couldn't beat without knowing the patterns. No matter how skilled you were at Donkey Kong, you could not progress levels at Donkey Kong without understanding certain nuances to patterns. But there were years where nobody realized this. And when they did come out in books, that was like the first step to being helpful. Mm-hmm. You would read a book that would give you like the patterns. But without the patterns, like you could only get so good.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it made you think that it made you think your skill just needed to be better. It's like, no, you needed to know. Without the patterns, you would be put in situations you couldn't survive. You had to do certain things ahead of time to prevent certain things from happening that were going to kill you, that you would have no way of knowing until somebody figured it out and put it in a book.
And now that's
it was
so
everybody my age that was a big thing. We all had 26.
See, I can only imagine figuring out, like, being like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to go up to the arcade. I'm going to dethrone the guy.
Right. And
you come up, and you've got your quarter, and you, like, set it up there. Just, like, imagine how, like, my balls would feel 10 pounds whenever I did that. Like, I got this guy today.
Well, and they were assholes. Assholes, every one of them. They were, because they were arrogant, and they talked shit. And it's like in hindsight, they weren't any good. I mean, every month, it's basically looking at like somebody who's good at Mario Brothers and then looking at people that do speed runs, and then saying like the really good Mario players have no idea what a speed run would have looked like in the future. Like, I guarantee you, there's classic console gamers now that are far better than any of the old players were back then. But they were the best for their time.
Right. Yeah. So,
but like now. Like I could master any of these games now because I could go to the internet and I can learn the patterns.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Like that was like you had to figure it out one quarter at a time.
So then, do you know who Billy Mitchell is?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, I know all about Twin Galaxy and Billy Mitchell and all all those fuckheads.
Oh my god! Yes, all those fuckheads.
No, Billy Mitchell he is a I thought he was fake when I saw King of Kong. I was no way this guy's real, and then I saw Man v Snake, which I thought. By the way, you saw Man v Snake?
I
don't know what that is.
Holy shit! Oh my god, you guys. Okay, so you've seen King of Kong, obviously.
Yeah, King of Kong, yeah.
Right. No, King of Kong, right?
Uh-huh.
Where with Billy Mitchell's one of the classic players. Man v Snake is about the first guy to score 1 billion points on a video game. On a video game, and the game he played was oh god, I've watched this 3 times. What? Go look up Man v Snake, Adriana.
Nibbler? Was it Nibbler?
Wiggler. Wiggler. It's arbitrary. They added an extra line. What?
Right.
Nibbler.
Yeah. That's what Sonny was saying. Yeah.
Nibbler. It was the first marathon game. So it takes 48 hours of nonstop play to do this. But you can build up to 100 lives. But as you get tired, you start losing lives faster than you're gaining lives. So it's actually an endurance game once you learn the patterns. And so this guy, it's as good as King of Kong. The guy was the first billion person, but then somebody breaks his record, so he comes out of retirement at age 45 to reclaim the Nibbler record. And he's he lives in this small town in Iowa, and he's 50 years old, very out of shape. Oh, it's beautiful. But Billy Mitchell's in that one too.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's on YouTube. It's free. It's called Man v Snake. If you like King, good.
Yeah,
and
I'll have to check that out.
Here's the best part of all. At the end of the it's a documentary about Man v Snake. They show what he does in his free time. He plays disc golf.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Full circle, baby. Full circle.
Oh no, you guys be sure to message me and thank me.
I will. After we watch it, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love all this stuff. I love the classic gamers. I love the old people that are just clinging to glory. They 8 people know. Well, before the internet, 8 people knew who they were, but they still that was their thing.
Right.
That was.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very charming.
Except
looked
for Billy
up
Mitchell,
this.
he's kind of a piece of shit. But he has 2 lawsuits going on right now against a YouTuber against Carl Jobs, the YouTuber, who made a documentary on him. And so
the kid killed himself.
Oh shit! Really?
After,
I didn't even know that.
Oh, there was one kid who killed himself after being, I think, threatened to be sued by Billy Mitchell and cyberbullied and
Oh my God.
I don't know which side of this is.
Yeah.
I'm not taking sides. I have no idea, but yeah, no, it's he's a piece of work.
I looked up this Man versus Snake game.
Uh-huh.
The guy that got the high score, his name is Tim McVeigh, which I find hilarious.
Yes, his name's Tim. Oh, I have messages on Facebook. I'll send you screenshots. I've talked to him on Facebook.
Really?
I was oh yeah, I wanted to get him on my podcast. I was holy cow! But he's very introverted. No,
that would
great.
check out.
Oh, it's free. It's on YouTube for free, and it's fantastic. Man v Snake.
So,
oh yeah, I'll have to check that out.
So the gaming is kind of my big realm, nostalgia Nate and all that. Sonny lately has been more into Sonny's a gamer too, but he's also been more into older cartoons and that type of stuff. Do you have any favorite cartoons growing up in that era that are super great, or even just regular shows?
Yeah, or just TV shows.
Yeah, TV shows in general.
I love old cartoons because I like cartoons before they tried to add morality.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Happened. There was no message. No one was offended by it. It was just pure violence for the sake of violence.
Tom and
Jerry was my favorite. No, I showed my daughter. This is a true story. I showed my daughter when she was 6 or 7 years old, Pepe Le Pew. Okay. And I know the joke was he was, the Me Too movement, blah blah blah. He would never have survived. That's not what was. Well, I mean, it's kind of funny because he's a a skunk who's a but not that it's funny internet.
No, of course not. But it's
Except when it's a skunk doing it to a cat that walked underneath a can of white paint that put a white stripe. Anyways, so Pepe says, this is a quote. This is an exact verbatim quote. Pepe says, "Everyone has hobbies. Mine is making love."
Oh,
You says in the cartoon, my hobby is fucking. That's what he
oh my
says.
gosh.
my hobby.
There was no beating around the bush. I was like, holy cow, they got away with that back then.
It's because
they
he had
just,
the high score on Donkey Kong, so obviously.
He-
you know.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, we love that. See, that was back like when, again, this is like in the old days. The media consisted of 3 television channels, and then probably one local affiliate. So you might have 4 channels. Like I lived in Los Angeles. We had 5. New York had 5. But we're talking ABC, NBC, CBS, and then 2 local affiliates. I think New York had 2. Chicago probably had 2. Everywhere else in the country had like 1. So you had 4 channels, no internet. So you were very limited on what you got. So cartoons were not something you couldn't just watch cartoons. They were every day after school from like 3 to 5. Once the adults came home, it was a cartoon. So Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 on one channel. You got you didn't get to choose, and then on Saturday morning, that was the that you guys have probably heard like Saturday morning cartoons were like the thing, right? Because that was like it was like 3 or 4 hours of cartoons, but you had 3 channels. So if you didn't like the Smurfs, you would watch Dungeons and Dragons or something.
Yo.
But it was like that was Saturday morning was epic. Like your friends stayed over Friday night, and you'd get up in the morning in your pajamas and watch cartoons. It was the best.
See, and I mean, I know Nate and I aren't too different in age, so I think we probably had a little bit of the same. So,
We had more options
like
for sure, though.
we had more options, but definitely like even up until I'd say the mid like 2005, 2006, there were still like you could still do Saturday morning cartoons. Like you could wake up on Saturday and there's more channels, but
Yeah.
that was still an event.
Yeah.
The thing is,
But it was what was when there was like what was nice about it is that there was no other options other than like maybe 4 Charlie Brown shows. They would show Ricky Tikki Tavi every year. They would show The Grinch. Like there was a couple like regular shows, but they would do the same one every year, which is cool because, but there was no other like why this is before VCRs, right? So you weren't even like you couldn't even buy like cassette tapes of your cartoons or record them. Like if you missed the show, you were fucked because in your mind, like that show would never air again. It would we had no idea there would be like stuff saved digitally that would all of a sudden stream someday where you can watch old shows. Like this is why things like no one can understand unless you were there. Like Evel Knievel, like okay, he was cool, he jumped over things, etc. It's like no, the entire country shut down when Evel Knievel was on because he was going to be on Wide World Sports. He had like a 20-minute or an 18-minute segment. And they weren't going to show his jump on the news, and it wasn't going to be repeated later. If you didn't watch that segment, in your mind, you would never see him jump over 18 buses or over the fountains or whatever. Like so, like if you weren't in front of your TV, you in your mind would never get to see the Evel Knievel jump. It was one shot. So the world shut down for these events. I think there's something culturally that like brought people together at those times because you would plan your days around what time's Evel Knievel on.
Right.
Like you would plan a barbecue and gather in the room, Evel Knievel jump or whatever it was.
I mean, that's kind of dope though. The fact that it was like, everyone would stop what they were doing to watch that. Like you only really see that now with like, I can't say the name because I don't want to get sued, but the big game in February with the hog skin.
Oh my goodness.
So
I mean it's a similar type of thing. Evel Knievel was he was that big at the time. Like he was every bit that big as far as, I mean, there wasn't a person. Well, the thing is, when you had so little media, if you were one of the three channels, like if 150 million people are watching television that night and there's three channels, that means 50 million people watched you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, like, because, I mean, that doesn't mean 50 million people, but on average, right? That's, like,
I'm over here
they're
scraping by for
little.
views on Twitch and shit. Just fucking.
I know, right?
I can only imagine.
Well, that's why I like talk about like there's not going to be the money in certain sports that there was before, because we're never going to get the viewership because it's not monopolized by three platforms. I mean,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
sharing people's bandwidth across all different streaming media, and then YouTube, and then there are people that watch television, I heard, still, and then there's
Yes.
people that like go outside, whatever.
Touch grass.
And so, yeah, so you're never gonna put 50 million people watching someone play disc golf. Knowing that, like, it'll never happen.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, you'd be surprised with like some of these like media outlets on YouTube. They get the views, man. People want to see disc golf. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Well, no, okay, I shouldn't say it's never going to get it. I guess globally it would get it, but as far as
Yeah.
the U.S.,
Yes, like specifically, yeah.
yeah,
I see what
you're
you're saying.
like even 1 million viewed videos where like there's a lot of different countries split up. That what's that in the U.S.? 200,000 in the U.S.
Could be.
300,000. Not dismissing that. It's
But yeah.
just, you know, it's. You guys said you talk about nostalgia. Yeah, I mean, by the way, none of this is to suggest that it was better back then. It's way better now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much better now.
You know what wasn't better, or what's not better now, but was better back then? Another thing Sonny and I talk about: wrestling.
Wrestling.
Professional
Yes.
wrestling.
You guys know that I wrestle?
You wrestle like
Olympic
entertainment wrestling?
like entertainment wrestling. Yeah.
No, like I'm a heel manager.
I didn't know that.
I'm a heel man. I take bumps. When I met Adriana, one of the first things I showed her a picture of me with the outline of a steel chair on my back. I took seven steel
Are
chair
you
shots.
fucking kidding me? Did you just find the best fucking guest or what? My mind is consistently blown. That's fucking phenomenal.
I took 6 to the back and 1 to the head because I had to get I take bumps even though I was like 50 years old. As a heel manager, they told me I don't got to take bumps. It's an indie show. There's no money in it. And it's like, they're like, look, you don't got to take bumps. And I'm like, bullshit. If you're a heel manager and you don't take bumps, like you're in the wrong business.
Wrong. Yeah.
you got to give the audience the payback. You can't go up there and talk shit and then have your guy get, you know.
Paul Heyman will take bumps even now.
Yeah, bear. No, but he'll do something. No. So I was. So I was my guy, Cowboy Jim Barrett. I was stopping. They had it was a match where I took out his opponent with the belt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of my first shows, but he was going to get to the corner where he was going to be able to win the match, and so I took the belt and I hit him across the head. Well, what happened was this like freaked me out. A grommet was on the belt. It hit his head, it gutted him like a 3-inch open. And I didn't hit him hard. He didn't get mad or anything. Even when we got to the back, there was guys backstage. The boys wanted to kick my ass because I was new. And he's like, no, he didn't do anything wrong. Like this,
nothing like that.
No. Well, no. I gave myself one by taking the chair shot to the head.
Oh shit. That would be a pretty good.
Yeah. So what? But he like falls to the mat, and I'm just laughing. And then I look down, and I've only seen this twice in my life. He was laying on his back, and the blood was spurting out with his heartbeat. Was spraying the air. And the next thing, laying in full of blood. And the one thing I'll tell you in wrestling, well, one of many things, is that it's an accident, but you never waste an accident.
No.
So what a great opportunity. So I'm sitting there, my heart's broken, and I just drop to my knees, and I just start screaming in his face how I was just laughing at him, what a pussy you are, bleed all over the mat. And I'm like, and my heart's breaking. He's like the head trainer in Colorado Springs. He's like the sweetest guy. Everyone loves him. and I'm just laying into him. So when we went backstage, I actually took him to the hospital. We still did kayfabe. I still like swear by kayfabe. Mm-hmm. So we snuck out the back. I took him to the hospital. I sat in the hospital room with him all night while he was getting. I'll send you pictures. It's like he was gutted.
Yes, that's wild.
So at the next show, he was going to come out because he was going to be wearing the mask as we were fucking with this Puerto Rican guy, and they told me to be racist and blah blah blah. Anyways, it turned out him under the mask, right? And he says he. And I said, I go. He goes, we're going to give you 2 chair shots. You know, one to your stomach and then one flat on your back. He says, and then go down and you're fine. He goes, if you get up, you're going to take one in the head. I go, well, I'm going to get up because you need to give me a receipt for what happened to you for the fans. Right. And so I took the second one. I was laying on my stomach. It's like, fuck it, let's do this. And I stood up and just took one to the head. And then I took like 3 more to the back. And then they hurt. I love wrestling.
That's fantastic.
How long have you been doing that?
Holy shit! Excuse me.
No, not that long. I started really getting into it, just for like a year, right before COVID hit.
Wow!
Oh, wow!
Recent, yeah.
Yeah. I did it as a grown up. No, I reached out. What happened was I reached out in my social media, and I said, I'm like, I'm 50 years old and I've never wrestled. I go, I gotta do a match somewhere. And so I put the word out there, and there was somebody up in Elkhart, Indiana, who ran a small wrestling promotion. And he's like, yeah, we can book you for a night. And I was like, hell yeah. So I drove all the way to Indiana just to be in this little show in this little like elementary school gymnasium to raise money for the playground, or you know how that works.
Yeah.
And he's like, what do you have in mind? And I was like, I go, what do I have in mind? I said, I kind of had this idea of doing like this Andy Kaufman thing where I'm the real athlete. I'm a real athlete.
Oh no.
I'm not a wrestler. And I play a real sport, and I play, you know.
Oh, you get so much heat for that. That's mad heat right there.
Yeah, and I named Brutus Dillon. Oh, he fucked me up so bad. He's my height. He's 6'7", a legit 400. Hooked is like 500.
Yeah,
he's 6'7", 400 pounds. He's a monster. Sweet,
holy shit.
Total sweetheart of a guy. I'll send you guys. I got the video.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we want all this.
And he says to me, and he kept asking me. It's so funny. Like he's like, so how do you want this match to go? And I'm like, why are you asking me? I go, it's so inappropriate for me to like have an opinion here. I've seen enough shoot interviews to know that the new guy shuts the fuck up. And he's like, he goes, no. He goes, you're I'm asking you what you want to do. It's your one day. And I was like, well, what do you have in mind? And he says, well, here's what I want to do. He says, I want the guys that I'm feuding with to take me out and you to pin me. And I said, can I give you an opinion? He says, yeah. I go, please don't make me fucking win. Like if I win, I go, I'm like, that is the most douchebag thing in the entire world.
Yeah.
I can't win.
You gotta go.
I don't want WCW, but you're not. No, I can't win. And so I was like, please don't do that. He goes, well, then he lays out the match, and he's like, then I'm going to body slam you and pin you. And I go, is body slam your like finishing move? He goes, no, but you don't want my finishing move. And so what is it? He goes, it's a choke slam.
Okay. Yeah.
And I said, well, I go, why don't you want that? He goes, because it starts 9 feet in the air and it fucking hurts. And I'm like, I go, there's no way I could be Andy Kaufman for the night and not
take a finish.
Have your finish?
Yeah, dude.
Of course you have. And I said, I go, when you lift me, I'll jump. He goes, because I've seen like Hulk Hogan take choke slams and not jump. And yeah. And I was like, I'm doing it. I'm like, so like I'll show you the video. Like he lifted me up and I left and it fucking, I saw stars.
Oh yeah, that's a 9-foot drop.
Yeah, dude. Like, holy fuck.
Well, no, it's exactly where he goes. Starts 9 foot. No, he says it's 9 feet in the air and it's not a fucking trampoline we're on.
Yeah,
it's nice canvas, baby.
Oh, anyways, that was gonna be just this one-off, but I had so much fun. I was like, oh my god, I get to just like, I never want to be anything but a heel. I just want to get on the mic.
Being a heel is the best.
Everybody hate me. Yeah, y'all want to hear more? I get.
Dude,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. I
fantastic.
love
Yeah,
wrestling stories.
Dude, yeah.
So my first show in Colorado, I don't know. I guess maybe the culture's changed because I keep having input in the matches. I know I'm not supposed to, but they're not what I want. Like, well, if we're talking about it, I have some ideas. And I said, I got this great idea. So first off, I was being brought in. I was going to be the owner of the organization. I was the investor that saved the organization. Then I'm going to turn that guy. I know that's been done to death, but whatever.
Yeah.
That was the idea. Right? So, because if you make people love you at first, then they hate you 10 times as much when you turn because they're like they were invested in you.
Kevin.
So they want to turn the same night because it's a small show. So anyways, it's just like it's an or a high school gym.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, a few like 100 people. So
Those
it's
are the
not a
best
lot of
shows
people
to go to, though. It's the high school.
they're
gyms.
great.
All the indie shows.
Everybody's like 8 feet away from you.
Right.
So the plan was they said we're going to bring you out to the ring before the show. It's going to be a total before the show even starts. So people are still believing at this point that it's not the show, right? That's the fun. If you can actually make them believe for a second, then that's old school, right?
Right, exactly.
So they're like going to bring me out before the show as the investor to save the show and do an interview in the ring. And they're like, how do you want to make people hate you? And I'm like, oh, just give, they're going to do an interview. No, that's what he says. The guy, he says, and we're going to interview you. And it's like, but we want people to not like you. And I said, okay, I could come up with something, right? So they announced before the show, I want to thank the sponsors, thank the school, blah, blah, blah. And most importantly, this show never would have happened if it weren't for the generous donation of Scott Stokely and people in the audience. Thank you, Scott.
Dude, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, like I'm embarrassed. They're like, can you yeah? They're like, can you come? They're like, will you come into the ring for an interview? And everybody's like, yeah. And they bring me to the ring. They started, and they're like, how long have you been a wrestling fan? And I had someone in the back do this, and I started talking to him in the interview, and then my phone rings, and I pick up my phone and I go, I'm sorry, I got to take this. And I lean up against the rope and start talking on my phone in the middle of the interview.
Yeah, that'll
keep talking. And I keep talking.
Oh.
And people, it's the cringiest thing you've ever seen because everybody's like, yeah, no, you can't do that. You can't
like
this. And now, wait a second, you're making like 200 people wait for you to get off what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I just watched them go from cheering to like throwing cups at me.
That is fantastic.
And I did it without even a word because I just grabbed the phone and just sat there and it was great. And then they asked me to get on I got to be part of the announce team that night. I love being like that's my favorite. It's white trash performance art.
Dude, yeah.
Yes. No, that's awesome. I had no idea that you were into that.
To me, that's a creative way to get heat just because usually you go like, oh yeah, you go in for the interview and it's like, oh, I only fucking donated because this is a shithole of a town and this is bullshit, That's like cheap heat. I was not expecting you to just be on your phone and just wait for them to fucking turn on you.
Yeah. Well, because the interviewers are like, what's going on here? But I won't leave the ring.
Right.
Oh,
and standing there.
I'm telling people to keep it down because I'm trying to talk.
Ruining everybody's fucking house show. Oh my God. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I love that. Oh, hell yeah. You want one more?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yes. One more.
All right. I love this stuff. Okay, so one more. So it's an all ages show, and which is rare, but it was an all ages show, and at this point I'm just Cowboy James Barrett's manager, and they would usually stick me on the mic to start the show. They tell me to just go to start the show with heat, and but it was an all ages show, right? Which we never do. And the booker says to me, he says, I want you to go cross the line. He says, but just so you know, I'm going to pretend to be pissed at you because the owner, he goes, I want you to go too far because there's kids here.
Hello, and cocksuckers.
The owner of the establishment is going to be pissed. He goes, and I might wind up like literally chewing you out in the back and maybe telling you to leave. but just know that everything's cool. Like I
Oh,
like
wow.
the owner of the club's not in on this, right?
Right.
To do whatever I want. So I'm like, all right, it sounds like fun. So I go and I get on the microphone. Oh, and I tell them, I say, look, I go, I'm going to mess up on purpose. Don't like interrupt. Don't do anything. Just let me, don't, you got to let them know so they don't like jump in. Right. And I do my thing. And then I on the mic, I'm like, all right, gentlemen and whores.
Yo, chill.
Oh, shoot. And I was like, and then I looked all embarrassed. I looked at the ref, and the ref's like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, and I looked at the back, and the guy in the back, the booker's like, well, you know, I mean, he was in on it, but he's like,
yeah.
I go, can I? Oh my God, and oh, by the way, I got video of this too. There's people in the audience going, it's a kid show. And I said, please, I apologize, everybody. I'm not used to doing kids show. Can I please just have a chance to start over?
Aww.
I'm so sorry. Okay, what I meant to say is, I'm going to get this. All I was trying to say, kids, is that your moms, how do I say this? They let men lie on top of them for money.
Dude.
Oh no.
Dude.
They blew. Unbelievable. Yeah, it was that blue. Actually, can I share one more with you? I got the best.
Yeah, go for it.
My favorite, probably my favorite one. So we were in Denver, and it was a show at a marijuana bar.
Okay. Yeah, very cool.
So this bar that they don't serve drinks, but everybody's got bongs and dab pens. It's in Colorado.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this massive place. Now, I'd never worked Denver before, so it was a different promotion that they asked me and James to come out for. And I said, I had this great idea. Like, remember, you try to blur the line. I said, what if I come to the event early and protest the event and hand out literature, propaganda about how I think that we should make marijuana illegal in Colorado again. And they're like, that's knows who you are. It's perfect. So none of the boys knew either. We didn't tell anybody. So the other wrestlers were getting pissed at me because they thought I was just some guy. I was wearing a tie and everything. I was standing out front. And I had a petition that I would hand people flyers about how it'll lead to heroin. And people were crumpling up. They were just trying to have, why can't you just let us have fun? Because, there's Colorado, they were doing stuff like that, right? And everybody was pissed off, but the wrestlers were like, they didn't know. They were getting pissed off at me too. Mm-hmm. And so I have a petition as well. I'm trying to get a petition signed to make marijuana a felony again. And this woman comes out, and she's got like 3 or 4 guys with her. And they're all dressed really nice and stuff like that. Like, I didn't realize she was the actual owner of the establishment, right? And she's a big activist. And she comes up to me, and she says, and we're right out front, and she says, I go, hey, will you sign a petition? She's like, sure, I'll sign it for you. I'm like, what's it for? I said, oh, we're trying to make marijuana a felony in Colorado. Mm-hmm. And she looks at me and she goes, I just spoke before Congress. My son has autism, and I just got him medically cleared to get marijuana for my son with autism.
No.
And I look in their eyes and I said, yeah, but I know it's better for your son than you do.
Oh my God.
No, you didn't.
She looked at me like this, and then she pushes me. She throws me up against the wall out front. She just has no idea.
Yeah.
And they're pulling her back, and these guys are yelling at her, and crowds gathering. You have no idea. And she's just like she's steam's coming out of her ears, right. and they should beat the shit out of me. And I'm just like, and I'm just like standing my ground out front, and these guys want to kill me. I'm scared to death. But that's what's fun, right? And then finally, someone runs inside, gets the booker, brings him out here. He comes out, pulls her off of me, not physically, but she was like right here.
Yeah. Grabs
her, pulls her away, and I see them walk away. And she talks to him for a second, and then she turns her head to me, and I see her mouth go, "We." I know it's better for your son than you. She's like, what the fuck?
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
so we actually had none of the boys knew that we had pulled this
Right.
off. And then, according to Colorado law, before we have the event, they're legally required to give me a chance to speak at the event.
Oh no!
Required to allow me to voice my dissenting opinion according to Colorado marijuana law.
Oh my god!
Like I have to be, yeah. And then we went up there, and then my guy Cowboy talked about how I saved him from the devil's lettuce, and how
Oh no!
everybody kind of realized it. But this is also all in video. It was a lumber strap match. So basically, they had 5 belts, and you auctioned them off, and whoever auctioned the most money got the belts. And anybody that fell off the ring apron, everybody with a belt could jump out of their seat and start whipping the person on the belt, right? And and so because I'm managing Cowboy, we're up in the ring, the ring. Every time he got knocked to the floor, I would jump on top of him to protect him. Well, anyways, she paid the most money for a belt and beat the shit out of me.
Yo!
It was so
Dude.
much fun. And you saw the pictures, right, Adrian, of the welts on the back? Oh, I know. It drew blood. They hit me through my shirt and drew blood.
Dude, I like
I don't know,
Scott
it's so
Stokely, the disc golfer, but I love Scott Stokely, the fucking heel manager. Okay,
That's incredible.
you're on my top 3 fucking
Oh my
managers
God.
right now.
Oh, did we lose him?
We might have lost him. Oh,
I
there
would
we go.
love to do more. So I couldn't do it because of COVID. We couldn't do it because of COVID. And then when I was in South Carolina, well, now we're in Australia. I was in South Carolina, and I reached out, couldn't get a hold of my guy in South Carolina to do the show. But here, no prompt. Adriana, answer really loudly. What did I tell you I want to do when I get to Auckland? So, yeah, I said I wanted to contact one of the organizations in Auckland, and I wanted to go to do a show as a guest from a real country.
Dude,
That's incredible.
Yeah,
you are, wow.
I would love to go.
Oh my god.
There's like 3 organizations. I looked into it.
I love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I had no idea that you were into wrestling. That makes this so much better
Yeah,
because
I
we
went
talk
out
about
on a
wrestling
limb.
a lot.
I had a couple of questions written down. I was like, I didn't mean to take over or anything. I was just like,
I'm
No, I
sorry.
haven't watched like 15 years.
oh,
Modern wrestling, I hate it.
That's fair.
yeah.
That's
I
fair.
like MJF. That's it.
I can tell you like MJF by the way you perform.
No, he's not. I can't say it. I think the pendulum's going to shift. I think it's going to get, now that Vince is gone, I think the show can come back.
Yeah, H is putting some work in, so we'll see.
Yeah, if they give him control, I think he'll do a good job. I mean, NXT was great.
Yeah. Oh, NXT
Before-
is phenomenal.
It wasn't WWE quality.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm
I
excited
think.
for that.
All right, did we bore all your viewers?
Oh no, they know that we like wrestling.
Yeah,
I think
we-
our last episode a wrestling centric
Raven the Kid was
episode.
on it.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
our last episode was,
Literally,
it was
Raven the
completely
Kid and
wrestling.
we were giving you like wrestling terms and keeping you, in the
Mhm.
loop. So yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so glad that you you have those awesome stories, and I do want to see videos and pictures. That sounds incredible.
For sure. Wait a minute. Yeah, I gotta add on Facebook or follow or whatever I gotta do.
Yeah.
How do I get
I'll
these?
send you the picture of the person. I felt so bad about it, but it was horrible.
And this is of the guy that got the grommet cut.
It was like I've watched wrestling a long time. I've never seen anything like it.
Dude, that's worse than
I mean,
dating for sure.
It's never happened before. I'm saying that
Mhm.
it's like they don't show it close up.
No,
Yeah, no, not at
that's
all.
way deeper than blading, dude. Blading is usually just
No, it's not blading.
Yeah, no.
He's,
no,
Wait.
that's a real injury.
that's why
Yes.
you needed to he's such a nice guy. He's like I'm not mad. I'm like I go yeah, but you got to.
Yeah.
You have to out.
A
I mean,
mandatory receipt. You better give me my ass on a silver platter.
you have to, or else. I mean, if there's no payoff to that, if you don't get a payoff from the wound, then what's the point of the wound?
Exactly.
Like,
So
I see where you're coming from.
yeah.
No,
it,
that's
it had
awesome.
to happen. I wasn't back out. So I told
But yeah,
and I not tell you because we met before COVID. Did I not Did I not tell you that the reason I showed her that picture? I told her you're going to be going to wrestling shows. I said, be prepared. I go, you're going to be the camera person.
Yeah. My fiance and I met shortly before like COVID, and same thing. That's when I was living in California, and now I live in Utah to be with her. But same thing. Like she wasn't really all about wrestling, but now she's the one who always drags me, and she's like, "Oh, this pay-per-view's on." She surprised me with the WWE Live, which is a lot better quality because the superstars have more freedom to do what they want, because it's not like it's not like a canon. It's not like a show that is in line with the rest. So you see people team up that you thought you'd never see just because there's no story.
Oh, that's cool.
So it was cool to get chewed out by the Miz, who told us that we live in a shit town, and that's always great. Love the Miz. I think he's really good with
Dude, he's so much. I wish Jim Cornette would start giving him credit.
Yeah.
He's the Miz. The Miz was like, he's done everything you could possibly to prove that he belongs there.
Mm.
Yeah, from how he changed in the bathroom when they kicked him out of the locker room at the beginning, it was
for like a year.
Yeah, for a whole year of on top of traveling and everything else, he gets to go get changed in the fucking public restroom while everybody else.
His dues by now. He's also very good. Yeah,
he's
MJ,
really good.
But he's the one I like him the most.
That's awesome. No, I'm super stoked that you were into that, and no pun intended. But that's awesome. I would love to know if you do get to go into Auckland and perform, how that goes.
Yeah, yeah, dude, please.
Yeah, you kidding me? I'll share it on social media, of course.
Yes.
Yeah,
well, it's not entirely true. I may or may not, because I have an audience that might not understand what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And polarize my audience of people that just don't
understand it's an act.
They have to be initiated into the it's a lot.
Yeah, like look, I'm gonna say horrible things about New Zealand.
Right. Suddenly start
but it's okay. They want
the audience. It's like crap.
Yeah, so I'm like, I actually took my wrestling match down because it wasn't good for my brand. But everybody, all my friends.
Well, if you want us to, we can edit all that out. If you don't want to have that out there.
No.
Okay,
I didn't share the best story.
Okay.
No, the best story, I can't tell you on air.
Okay.
Fair enough. Yeah. But hey.
If you stop, after we stop recording, I'll tell you the best one.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, actually, I was going to mention something. It's probably been like an hour and a half at this point.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah.
So it's typically about when we stop. Do you have anything that you want to promote, like your YouTube channel, anything like that? You want to?
I got a few things. I have a 6-month online class called Become a Complete Disc Golfer. We take signups every month, but it's a 6-month class. If you want to get better at disc golf, this is the best way to do it. It's not a bunch of videos and then some curriculum of things to work on. It's a fully interactive class.
Nice.
There's live classes. If you missed a live class, it's no big deal because you can participate in a classroom, a group where you'll be continuously over 6 months submitting form reviews, and I'm giving you steps to work on, and you're sending form reviews. We're correcting them. You're going back out and throwing. I have a handful of trainers that work for me. I'm really super proud of it. It's not some fly-by-night thing. It's really good. But that's at scottstokely.net.
Okay.
And I have my full-day disc golf seminars that I've been teaching for the past 2 years that I'm not doing now that I'm not in the U.S. I have 2 people teaching my method, Stokely method. It's not a method of throwing.
We might have lost him.
Method of teaching. Method is are posted as well to get tickets. Every one of those will sell out. They cap at 6 people per seminar, and 100% of those will sell out. So if you're interested in getting into one of the full day seminars instead of the online class, then that's you want to get your tickets now. Those are the 2 big things I'm promoting.
Sweet.
Okay. We may have lost you for a little bit on that second one, but
I'll get the information and I could put up like a big.
Yeah, we'll definitely have it available to you, whether it's on screen or in the description.
Yeah, probably both.
They will be able to see it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Well, all right.
Okay.
We
Yeah,
got
no,
the
we'd
heel
like to-
Scott Stokely here. Fucking
Yeah, for real. But thanks so much for coming on our little show.
Yeah.
We're always happy to have a wrestling fan. That's
Right,
incredible.
Of course, yeah. B, somebody to say fuck Billy Mitchell on air is always great.
Yes.
Dude, guy's the biggest douchebag ever. You seen his wife and his hot sauce?
No.
Guys,
I didn't know you had a hot sauce.
Anyway,
of course his face is on it.
you always asked if we can, or not you always, but you asked us if we can curse on this, and by the end of Milktown, we always ended the same way. It's just me saying, fuck!